Chris Bowen, signed an agreement to cooperate on the acceleration of clean tech development. Well, I'm telling you both, you can sign pieces of paper all day and it won't get you to net zero. At that same forum this week, the Chinese government didn't accept the invitation. But most speakers in the room were whinging about supply chains. In other words, they've woken up that if you want solar panels and wind turbines, not only does China have a world monopoly on producing them, but also China leads the world in the production of rare earth concentrates, used in the production of solar panels, turbines, electric vehicles and batteries. In other words, China dominates the world in the processing of minerals needed in a low-carbon world, if that's what you're going to achieve. So now everyone's getting nervous as to how you wean countries off the Chinese supply chain. In other words, we're mouthing all this talk about zero emissions and we don't have the capacity to deliver. That's why the executive director of the International Energy Agency, this Dr. Fatih Birol, said also at that forum that the global energy crisis has not reached its peak and is likely to worsen. He said, quote, "The world has never witnessed such a major energy crisis in terms of its depth and its complexity." He said, "I believe we might not have seen the worst of it yet," unquote. We have an energy supply crunch. We want to turn our backs on coal-fired power. Even if renewables were viable, which they're not, and you've heard the cliche about the sun not shining and the wind not blowing, but we don't have the transmission infrastructure to get the stuff onto the grid. And meanwhile, electricity and gas prices here are going through the roof. And we continue to ignore the thousands of years of coal underneath our feet. The public understand this. That's what Daniel Wild was just talking about, asking Australians, should we build new coal-fired power stations to ensure families have reliable and affordable electricity all year round? And only 23% of those polled across Australia disagreed. Which brings me back to the utterances of our Prime Minister. Quote, "We will legislate for 43% reduction in emissions and we'll have 82% of renewables in the energy market by 2030. I'm sorry, there's no hope of getting there. And the polls suggest the public are not in step with the government's utterances about energy, which are delivered with a sort of biblical certainty. Soon the Albanese government is going to have to accept that on May 21, 67.2% of voters didn't want them. And that means the government runs the risk of imploding on energy policy that might be endorsed by the Teals, but it doesn't answer the concerns of mainstream Australians.